Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Citizen Era, the platform where we speak truth to power. Um, this morning, we want to just quickly do something. We're going to play this song. You know, we said we'll be playing this song, How Long? Before the Chatham House speech of Peter Obi, we're just going to play the song straight away. We want you to get a feel and a flavor of what is really going on. So we are going to play that song. We will play the song, How Long? And then we will listen to the Chatham House speech. And we may add comments or, make some points at the end of it. But what we wanted you to just do was to play the song, How Long? Because we really need our people to be understanding what is going on. And How Long is a very important song for that. So welcome to Citizen Era, the platform where we speak truth to power. So with that said, let's proceed. Please do share. The aim of the song, we got about like 5 weeks now before the election. The election will take place on the 25th of February, Saturday 25th of February, in Contractor, Nigeria, based using that fraudulent 1999 constitution as a platform. And we need to reject it. But we know people are going to go and vote, but we want them to really think and understand that what they need to do instead of voting above all else is to go for self-determination, referendum and self-determination. So in that order. So let's listen up. Here goes. Citizen Era. My people, I throw it hello. Hey, hey, make it hear. How long? How long? How long? How long? How long? How long? How long gonna go this off? How long? How long? How long? How long? How long? How long gonna go this off? How long? How long? How long? How long? How long gonna go this off? How long? How long? How long? How long? How long gonna go this off? My people, we don't tire inside Nigeria. Now slave camp we dey oh. Now so my people, we don't tire for the country where them they call Nigeria. Now slave camp oh. They tell them now where we supposed stand up for our rights oh. Stand up for our rights oh. They tell them now where we supposed stand up oh. For our rights oh. For self-determination. How long? How long? How long? How long? How long gonna do this for? How long? How long? How long gonna do this for? How long? How long? How long gonna do this for? How long? How long? How long? How long gonna do this for? Abdul Salam
make una wake up, make una wake up, time down knock, bagang bagang. You be Yoruba man, you be Biafran. I want make una know say self-determination now your right you. How long? How long? How long? How long gonna go this suffer? How long? How long? How long? How long gonna go this suffer? How long? How long? How long? How long gonna go this suffer? How long? How long? How long? How long gonna go this suffer? Yoruba land na your land yo. Middle belt na your land yo. Hausa land na your land yo. Biafra land na your land yo. No be Nigeria, no be Nigeria, no be Nigeria, no be Nigeria. La 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 oh.
Yeah.
What's next?
Keep slamming.
Yeah.
Service to this God that we are looking for. You know.
In providing
So yes, sorry about that. The speech is going to be played now. We're getting the speech to you. We were looking for the speech. That's why we were muted for a few seconds, but now we're back. Here goes. Here's the speech, and we may make some comments at the end. Let's watch it together.
Thank you, Lex. Let me respectfully stand on all due and existing protocols. In agreement with
you can all see was at the Chatham House. So with that said, let's proceed and listen. Thank you.
my belief in the primacy of gratitude among virtues, please allow me to begin today with the word of gratitude. I'm most grateful to Chatham House, Dr. Ellis Vines, and his team for the global impact of their mission and commitment to engagement with nation building in Nigeria. In providing this global platform to interrogate the vision of those seeking to lead Nigeria at this time with clear existential threats, as I will discuss shortly, are pervasive across our dear country. This Chatham House event challenges us to a new thinking. We have an alarming insecurity that has led to loss of many lives and properties, significant decline in food and economic output, immense trauma that has compromised the mental health of communities, and in some cases, identity pressures and disaffection with the Nigerian project. The economy is in crisis, with a troubling debt profile worsened by oil theft of proportion once hard to imagine. 2 economic recessions in 6 years, and lamentable power sector that have significantly constrained manufacturing and social life. The Nigerian state is captive to an elite gang-up and a rentier political economy that concentrated power in hands of those who came to power and influence mainly through their own contrivances and influence rather than affirmation of the people, and therefore do not have the incentive to serve the people. Even after exploiting the ethnic and religious cleavages, sentiments to ascend to political power, the very people on whose sentiments they grab power often become the primary victims of such political fraud that has rendered Nigeria a failing state with worsening leadership crisis. Consequently, Nigerian democracy had been on the wane, evident in Afrobarometer longitudinal tracking, which reveals low voter turnout. But this seems to have turned around dramatically last year, allowing independent National Electoral Commission to register over 12 million new voters, with many more complaining they wish to register, but unable to do so due to a INEC deadline. What prompted this turnaround? We may ask. The reason for this very high stakes are lurking in the facts of demographics, with our dominant population, the youth, frustrated and unhappy with the status quo and diminished opportunities in Nigeria in an age of globalization, when internet can easily reveal to them prosperous homes of those who live in a better led and governed countries. How did we, Nigeria, plunk or get here in such an economic decline that we have overtaken India as a home for the biggest pool of absolute poor in the world, when they are 7 times our population? While the poverty rate in India is 16%, that of Nigeria is 63%, with 133 million people classified as multidimensionally poor. This is unacceptable and needs to change. What Nigeria needs is a great escape. As 2015 Nobel Prize winner in economics Angus Deaton of Princeton University elucidated that what separates poor and rich nations is attributed to health and education. But what provides quality health and educational system for a society committed and focused leadership that can build and sustain public wealth, as I was told by Professor Donald Jacob of Kellogg School of Management. In many ways, this is the heart of my remarks today, which are deeply rooted in my upbringing, particularly my mother's counsel, that I live a life of positive impact and manage both personal and public resources most prudently for the sustainable, inclusive growth of development of the society. It is this principle that guided my stewardship as governor of Anambra State of Nigeria and led to our much commended performance with some prize awards to show for it. Some awards for outstanding accomplishments in key Millennium Development Goals, now Sustainable Development Goals. It is the same counsel and principle that is guiding and motivating me to offer to serve in a new Nigeria. The answer lies in leadership, institution, and demographics. The good news is that the demography is driving the change we're seeing in Africa, with election after election last year in Africa, in which establishment parties are being upturned by new and small parties. It is this change that my vision of policy change and institutional development is rooted in a push for a broadened scope of social mobility and freedom for Nigeria, particularly for the youths and women. Like the former British Prime Minister Harold Macmillan said, at the start of the independence decade, a wind of change is blowing across Africa. Today, that new wind of change sees the ballot box as being instrumental to changing of bad leadership. Senator Yusuf Dat Ahmed, my running mate, and I are committed to new politics that start with ethics of servant leaders and anchored on marriage of clean hearts and skillful hands. We know that unless we change the politics by changing the political leadership, we are stuck in this terrible state of underdevelopment and misery. We will build patriotically our institutions, particularly the ones directly responsible for implementing government policies, to make them fit for purpose. It is not to be doubted at the global scene that Nigeria is blessed with some of the most entrepreneurial youths in the world, in science, in business, in art and entertainment. We believe that what remains is the changing of leadership class from predicators to creators of value, from those whose wealth and power drive from the destruction of the nation and its people to those who have demonstrated competence, character, capacity to invest in human development, create prosperity, and instill right values and ethical conduct deserving of servant leaders. Nigeria today is at a critical juncture, and the people led by the youths, brutalized by bad leadership, are awake and leading the movement to transform Nigerian politics and restart the engine of economic growth and social stability. We count ourselves honored to be trusted, especially by the youth, to lead this democratic revolution, and we are deeply pledged to do so with sincerity, accountability, and unquenchable love and desire for a better Nigeria. We are simply the symbol of Nigerian youth struggle to reverse this ugly trend that keep driving them into social anarchy, despair, and rejection of their country. We are determined to do everything that needs to be done to rescue and lead our country to prosperity, freedom, security, and peace. We will use merit to assemble competent Nigerians from all sections of Nigeria to form effective government of national unity. At the heart of my goal here today is to look at our Labour Party's key policy plans and how they will drive up the quality of life of average Nigerian, dramatically reduce poverty, and return Nigeria to a place of strategic relevance in a world that needs a thriving and well-governed Nigeria, stabilizing the continent of Africa, making it high-value add for a planet impaired by environmental challenges, terrorism, and inequity. I also plan to speak on institutions and how the leadership we offer can facilitate the evolution of stronger institutions with the rule of law a key anchor to nation building in Nigeria. I have no doubt that the policy choice we favor and the strong institutions Labour Party will facilitate will move Nigeria from a country of rent seekers sharing oil receipts and consuming conspicuously to the one that produces based on vast factor endowments whose value chains can move us towards a high employment economy. We will turn our youth budget to a democratic dividend rather than today's harvest of time bomb of violence insecurity from uneducated, unemployed, and marginalized youth. These form the first and most important thrust of our government priorities, without which the rest will not be achieved, to secure Nigeria, end banditry and insurgents, and unite our dear nation to manage our diversity such that no one is left behind. The growing insecurity you see in Nigeria today is not because the enemy is formidable. It is not a lack of focused leadership, ineffective security government structure, and poor coordination from the center. All this needs to be addressed by first projecting strong leadership, signal that will allow both state and non-state actors to be mobilized around single vision. Then, by pursuing a robust reform of the security governance structure, coordinating mechanism that assures all levels of government, federal, state, local, with three-level policing, are aligned with strong collaboration with partners from both private and development groups to provide required services and deliver results for every Nigerian. Once this is done, it is important to have a single, clear, coherent, consistent development process. It is important for institutions to be able to provide strong leadership, coordination, capability, partner and engage collaboratively with all relevant stakeholders in an environment that mutually reinforces values. The second plank of our policy thrust is to shift emphasis from consumption to production by running a production-centered economy that is driven by agrarian revolution and export-oriented industrialization. With about 70 million hectares of arable land, we will pursue an agricultural revolution through proper segmentation of Nigerian to activate and harness factor endowment of different parts of the country for both rapid and mechanized agricultural development, and as a pillar for Nigerian other sectorial development and industrialization. We will incentivize and invest in an agro-cluster and industrial cluster development across our geo-resource zones to take advantage of agglomeration and scale effects of particularly in the northwest, northeast, and north central regions of Nigeria. We will dredge both River Niger and River Benue, build dams massively to support planting of economic trees across the country for local usage, poverty and elimination, export and revenue generation. A key task is to sequentially but decisively dismantle the inefficient and anti-market distortionary structures restraining Nigerian economy from creating a precondition for a dynamic pro-market economy. We will employ entrepreneurial governance to dismantle impediments to free trade and ease of doing business, and implementing radical economic policies that will drastically reduce our debt service, a major drain to the government revenue as it is today. Our micro, small and medium scale enterprises will be robustly supported. Further borrowing must be strictly for productive purposes and not for consumption. While we aggressively pursue the activation of all opportunities in oil and gas value chain, we will target incentive schemes that will be professionally administered to diversify our non-oil export portfolio with proper consideration and management of climate change risk and opportunities. The third pillar of our government priorities is to restructure the polity through effective legal and institutional reforms to entrench rule of law, aggressively fight corruption, reduce the cost of governance, and establish honest and efficient civil service. Reducing costs of governance in Nigeria is an effective way of fighting institutional corruption. In addition to reducing the cost of governance and streamlining government operations for efficiency and effectiveness, we will ensure that reforms we pursue will not in any way affect the livelihood of our hardworking and efficient civil servants. Critical to fighting corruption, we will install a new budgeting system founded on a cardinal principle of public accountability, objective setting, and program implementation. This is against the extant budgetary principles of revenue mobilization, expenditure allocation, borrowing without emphasis on monitoring, evaluation, and feedback. We will enforce principles of performance, auditing, institutionalized monitoring and evaluation process of the entire public service delivery as the primary means of actualizing our vision of the new Nigeria. This reform will institutionalize our personal involvement of both the President and the Vice President in setting budgetary objectives of MDAs and monitoring, evaluating the implementation process through Office of Regulatory Review in the Office of the President. Budget monitoring and evaluation capacity will be strengthened within the Presidency. We will embark on effective micro and physical restructuring to quickly restore physical viability by discontinuing unaffordable subsidies which have left a black hole in government finances. Fiscal and monetary policy will be properly coordinated with each conventional tool transparently instead of distorting markets in favor of privileged few. For instance, an avoidance of doubt, we will collaborate with Central Bank of Nigeria for a transparent liberalization of our foreign exchange market and dismantling of OPEC multiple exchange rates regime, which effectively subsidies few privileged persons. We will seek to boost the supply side rather than continue to concentrate exclusively on demand management of foreign exchange. When unaffordable subsidies are removed, some carefully calibrated transfers will be used to cushion adverse impact on economically weak. If the competitiveness of the sector is to be enhanced, then we will do so via enactment of transparent and specifically target fiscal and trade policies designed to stimulate investment and growth. Revenue shortfalls and leakages such as oil theft will be dealt with decisively by holding persons in position of authority fully accountable. The fourth plank of our governance priorities is to leapfrog into the fourth industrial revolution through application of scientific technological innovation to create digital economy. Building on the gains of agriculture-led manufacturing and export, we will pursue development of knowledge and skills to leverage on the emerging disruptive digital technologies, automation, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, robotics, virtual reality, blockchain technology, biotechnology, and data science, all of which are the heart of the fourth industrial revolution. The fifth plank of our government priorities is to build expansive infrastructure for efficient power supply, rail, road and air transportation, and pipeline network through integrated public-private partnership and entrepreneurial public sector governance. Our solution to the perennial power problem in Nigeria is comprehensive and is well covered in our manifesto. We will ensure that we deal with the issue of transmission distribution. However, we will immediately complete the 2.3 billion Nigeria Siemens network improvement deal to achieve a stable 7,000 by the end of this year, 11,000 megawatts by 2024, and 25,000 megawatts by 2025. We will support local manufacturing capacities and power technologies and encourage and expand local R&D in universities, training centers, and workshops, through which many jobs will be created. Our sixth priority program is to enhance human capital development of our youth for productivity and global competitiveness through investment in education, in research, quality health, and entrepreneurial education. The World Bank Human Capital Development Index ranks Nigeria 168 over 173. To move Nigeria right to the top bracket of the index, we will pursue a Marshall Plan type program on education that incorporates compulsory technical and vocational skills, sports, entrepreneurship, programming, digital skills from primary to secondary school level. In line with this commitment to transform our educational sector, we will prioritize funding of this critical sector. Our tertiary institution will be remodeled to serve as hubs and centers of research, development, and commercialization of ideas for quick industrialization of Nigeria. Finally, our seventh priority is to conduct an Afrocentric diplomacy that protects the rights of Nigerian citizens abroad, advances the economic interests of Nigerians and Nigerian businesses in a changing world. In concluding, let me say that the problem with Nigeria is at once complex and simple. It rests on leadership. As our erudite Professor Chinua Achebe stated, the trouble with Nigeria is simply and squarely a failure of leadership. In Achebe's view, there's nothing basically wrong with Nigerian character. The Nigerian problem is the unwillingness or inability of his leaders to rise to the responsibility, to the challenge of leading in the front by example, which is the hallmark of true leadership. When people of competence, character, commitment, compassion take over the leadership and pursue their mission and tasks with seriousness required, a new Nigeria characterized by peace, unity, prosperity, inclusiveness will be achieved and sustained. That is what's driving Dati, Baba Ahmed, and I to join to offer to lead this desire and crusade of Nigerian, particularly the youth, for an inclusive and sustainable Nigeria that works for all. In line with my upbringing, especially my mother's counsel, my promise is that Nigerian resources will be most prudently used for Nigerians. And as Commander-in-Chief, I, Mr. Peter, will sincerely pledge that our path with Nigeria will be diligently pursued to create a new Nigeria characterized by sustained and inclusive growth and development for all. Thank you, and God bless all of you.
Okay. That is generally accepted to be, the applause there suggests that people in the building liked what he said, and there are things in there that I could sort of said, okay, there's nothing in what he said that one will say, oh, I disagree with. There isn't. That was the full speech. So good morning, and welcome to Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. It's a little bit chilly this morning, so I'm wrapped up to the nines. I might, take things off as we proceed, but we'll see how it goes. I'm just trying to, in fact, I will probably take it off now. Now, the Peter Obi speech. He was a little bit, I'll be honest, it was a little bit ropey in between. It didn't flow. The message was clear. Don't get me wrong, the message is very clear, but it didn't flow as I sort of envisaged. But that's just me. Maybe I'm nitpicking. Good morning, welcome to Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. Today we are dissecting, for those of you who are not in the contraption called Nigeria, you may not fully comprehend what we're saying here, but please do help us by liking and sharing the broadcast. It would help us to get the algorithm up. So we do like your support. So if you can hit the like button as you're watching. We're going to dissect them. There's a man running for election in Nigeria. He's known as Peter Obi. And basically, Peter Obi wants to, what's the word? He wants people to vote for him in the coming elections on the 25th of February 2023 in Contraption Nigeria. And we are here to say that Contraption Nigeria is fraud. It is not one we should support. So what we are basically trying to do here is to provide you with clear reasons why we don't think that is the right course of action to take. I'm going to come back and talk about this and this later on. I'll touch into that. So I'm going to try and do this. You'll see my faces in two places. That's okay. That's fine. But I'm not going to change, because if I do, sometimes this thing does have a habit of actually just, going off, and I don't want to change that. So welcome on board, those of you who are on TikTok. I'm trying to see if I can build the platform up as much as possible. I'm doing as much live as possible. Many of us know that Contraption Nigeria has floundered severely. In fact, I would even venture to say Nigeria is on its last legs, and it's about to topple over, and we should let it topple over, because our ancestors as Africans did not create Nigeria. Our ancestors did not build Nigeria. But more on that later on. What I'd like to do right now is to now begin to look into the speech of Peter Obi a little bit. One of the things that Peter Obi was doing was giving the usual things, in sort of preferring solutions that his government will offer. Everything he was saying, it makes sense right now in terms of what the solutions he sees as what he would put forward when he comes into government. And that makes sense. That makes sense to it makes sense to to a certain, degree, if you like. It makes sense to a certain degree that, yes, you're coming in. When you're coming into government, then you're going to say, okay, you know what? Here's my solution. My government will do this. For example, it talked about focusing on agriculture, that we have 70 million hectares of agricultural land, and he wants that to be something that we can actually build. And I've said this before on this platform, that I believe that agriculture is a multi-million naira business. It is. But I will be breaking this down a little bit more in terms of in that area later on. Now, the key thing that is clearly missing in everything that Peter Obi said this morning was no clear plan of how to deal with the issue of the lack of transparency, lack of independence of the institutions into which people are expected to put the trust, i.e. INEC. INEC, he mentioned nothing about how. I would have expected him to say, we fully recognize, if I were to be running for anything in Nigeria, and I'm not, I don't intend to, but I'm just putting it as an example. If I were to be running for the president in Nigeria, here are the things that I would say. First thing, and I would be very, very honest with people, and I would say, look, I want to run, I'm going to run, I am running. But these are the things that you, the people, need to get involved in. INEC is not independent. In each of your local areas, you need to be checking. You have to come together, organize yourselves, and go and monitor the actions of INEC within your community. Because if you are going to vote in any elections in your community, and INEC is there principally to rig the elections, then you are wasting your vote. You are wasting your vote. That's what I would say. If I was if I was in the situation where Peter Obi, I'm running for something, and I don't want to run, because I don't want to run anything in Nigeria, because I don't believe Nigeria is not ours. We did not create Nigeria, and I will come back and I will come and break that down in a little bit more detail later on in this broadcast, and I'll be showing you some pictures and things to back up what I'm saying. So let me just keep the picture on. Those of you who are watching here, keep the picture back on, still on.
Thank you, Alex. Let me respectfully stand
So let me just
on all due and existing.
So let's just so whilst you're watching, we are dissecting the Chatham House speech of Peter Obi. He touched on a few things. He talked about on economy. He talked about making sure that the government will be fiscal planning and everything else. He talked about going fiscal planning. He talked about all of those things. These are normal things, and we're not faced by that. That's okay. That makes sense. You can do that. That's fine. But the fact remains that the fundamental issue, and it is sad that none of the politicians are talking about it. It is important that and I know why they don't want to talk about it. I know why these politicians they don't want to talk about it, because they know that if they are honest with you and say, we do not trust the institutions that has been set up to carry out the elections, we do not have confidence in it. If they said that, then it will be like, oh, you know what? This one has said that one, and the people and they are kind of worried about certain things within the political system. I understand that to a certain extent, but we have to be factual with ourselves. The Constitution, as I said over and over, and in what you will see in the films and things that I've done, the Constitution is illegal. It's fraudulent. It's a military constitution. It's an imposition, and all of those things, the things that he said now, he completely ignored the reality on ground, that to get to be the president of Nigeria, there are some serious obstacles of bad governance, i.e., the government of the day actively importing foreigners to come into the country. And not only that, when they caught killing the citizens, they, instead of them being repatriated, jailed and repatriated when they complete their sentence, or dealt with in terms of if it's killings and things, death penalty, they're not. What the government is doing is pardoning the people that they invited to come and kill these indigenous citizens and take their land. And the government is giving them homes, rewarding them. There is no prosecution. And these are the things that I feel that he has not addressed. I don't feel that he's addressed that. So one is the issue of the INEC. What steps his party and what steps his own, his supporters, what is he recommending for his supporters to take? The steps is he recommending for his supporters to take to ensure that the elections will be true, free, and indeed fair and transparent? What suggestions is he putting before them? Is he saying to every community, it is our collective responsibility to now make sure that we keep an eye on the election process itself? Because the fact of the matter is, to have buildings, to have INEC buildings burned across a whole swathe of the nation just before the elections suggests to me that that election is not going to be free, not fair. Because when you're going to have any elections, you need the infrastructures to support that election, buildings, equipments, and the staff, and coordination of and allowing of the free press. The press have a role to play in that. If the press is there and there's the buildings and there's protection, then you will have a free and fair elections. What has been happening with Contraption Nigeria is that every election they will bring army and police to chase away the electorates, the very people who they are asking to place trust in them. And they are often it is all by the government or those who seek to profit from rigging the elections. So this question, for me, I do not feel that particular area, what he read, although at times it sounded a little bit disjointed because he was reading of the book. He wasn't, I would have preferred, no, let me just, it's going to end. Okay. I'll come back. Okay. Something is going on with my system. I don't know what it is on Twitter. So I'll leave it on for a bit because it's saying I should end. I don't really want to end it. But, not Twitter, TikTok. So the question remains, after all Peter Obi has said now, the question still remains, the biggest obstacle, the fact remains that the biggest obstacle he faces right now in the coming days and week is INEC. Is INEC independent? Is INEC independent? Can you say that INEC is independent? And if you cannot say INEC is independent, what steps would you suggest for your own supporters to take within the law, of course? But even though we know that the federal government they don't comply with rule of law, so that's another problem. So, but what steps can they take? I did not hear him say, right, okay, we need everybody on board to now talk about, okay, how we're going to ensure that there's transparency at this election. The votes will be counted. We suggest, that we all monitor collectively the movement of the ballot boxes, the people who will be making an announcement, the reading of the votes openly, that process, the transparency of that process. I did not hear that from him because that is the biggest problem that he faces. That is the biggest problem that Peter Obi faces. The biggest problem he faces, the biggest problem Peter Obi faces is the issue of the rigging of elections. The biggest issue he faces, let me see if I can come back. I'll come back again into it. Let me just go back in there. 1 second. I'm just going to try and go live again via this one and see if that works. Sorry. So I'm trying to get it closer as possible because it's a little bit off. So, yeah. Yeah, hello, and we are back on TikTok. We are back on TikTok. We are still on reasons why we believe that Peter Obi, after his speech, no doubt many would have liked his speech, and a lot of people are really making a lot of noise about Peter Obi. But let's not forget, I want you all, it's all well and good you are screaming Peter Obi and everything else. Peter Obi was from PDP. He used to be PDP. He was a member of PDP. So all this idea now that Peter Obi is, however you want to say it, you need to really understand that Peter Obi is indeed part of the structure. Now he might have gone to a new party and created and strengthened the Labour Party. Great, but the fact remains that not too long ago, as early as the year before, and even up until February, I think, or so, he was and remains. Morning, thank you very much. He was and remains. He was part of the People Democratic Party, and we both know that both the People Democratic Party and the All Progressive Congress, they are corrupt. They are corrupt to the high heavens. They are corrupt. They are not They are doing everything, all and everything, to grab power using all manner of means. They are unashamedly going all out for power, and they are lying to the citizens even before the elections, and they intend to rob, loot, kill, whatever, just to get the power and to oppress the citizens that they are meant to serve. He talked about the issue about Nigeria being the poverty capital of the world, even though India has more people, in terms of population. I think something about 1 billion or something, 1 point something billion in India. And now we are now the poverty capital of the world. That's a real recognition of the failure of governance. Both the APC and PDP have failed the citizens. So for me, Peter Obi will never win this election. Peter Obi can never win this election because of the fundamental issue of the fraudulent 1999 constitution, and that is not something that he was willing to address. I would have expected him to be bold enough to say, look, yes, we want elections. Yes, we want to have confidence and faith in the electoral process. But suggestions would have come out. Okay, for us to have that, we need the participation of the people to actually be the eyes and ears watching and keeping transparency. And we also require that the government of the day stop using the military and the police to frighten the citizens. You see, the government of the day, the federal government, are using the military and the police to frighten and cower the citizens that they're meant to serve. And that is the real problem. Good morning, Becky Jones. Good morning to you. Good morning. Welcome on board, and thanks for joining us. So what I am saying here is this. Peter Obi, he has the popularity, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that if he was just, if he was on purely election casting of votes alone, and you could trust that there was transparency, there is no doubt that Peter Obi will win. In my eyes, if we had a truly independent INEC is only independent in name. Once you say the name, from that moment on, INEC is not independent. INEC was put together under that military 1999 constitution, promulgation decree number 24 of 1999. And that's the vessel through which they imposed INEC on all of us, without our say so, without taking part in how INEC was going to run. And they've been choosing who was going to be running INEC. They've been dictating all of that. So I have very grave concerns that the coming election, as much as I don't want the election to come to pass, I do not want the the 2023 elections that's going to happen on the 25th of February 2023 to take place, because frankly the government has done everything to oppress and suppress the indigenous people. The government have brought in terrorists from all over Africa. In fact, we're hearing about, recently there's some that they've actually gone and got some armies from another country, Burundi right here. I need to try and clarify that and make sure it's real. But just the mere fact that is being mentioned suggests that it's very possible. And on top of it, we are not a democracy, because the government of the day has been instructed by the courts, by the judiciary, to let go, to free Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. And what have they done? What they simply done is they ignore the court ruling and they keep hold of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. That to me suggests that that is not a democratic government, because they are trying to hold on to him. And apparently I understand that the UN has actually given them a mandate that it runs out at the end of this month of January, where Mazi Nnamdi Kanu must be released. So I mean, that's cutting it fine. By the end of this month will be 2 weeks. There will be 2 weeks left before the elections. So I don't see them releasing him, because they don't care about what the international body says. And it is really important. Another thing I wanted to state, the COP presidential candidate, Ikenga, as soon as he spoke about releasing Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, the next day or the day after, suddenly his life is threatened. They burned down his house. His whole house is burnt down, and one of his close relatives is killed. So what makes you as a citizen believe that Nigeria can be better under Peter Obi? They will not. He's not even going to get in there. What makes you think that he will have a chance to even be a president? What makes you, I'm giving you clear indication now that the situation that we find ourselves in is created by our own governance, because they are intent on ensuring that we don't have a voice. The election is controlled. It is a controlled, that election is something that they imposed on us via the fraudulent 1999 constitution. So let's just say by some miracle Peter Obi comes into and wins the election. Let's just say by some miracle, and I just don't see it. I don't see. Please, as you're coming in, tap the screen. We really would appreciate your support. Tap the screen and give us like and help us to grow, help the algorithm to reach more people. So I'll probably be here for another 15 minutes or an hour, maybe. Thereabouts. I will try to be. But what we're saying is that Peter Obi, has not addressed the fundamental issue of the INEC and the lack of transparency within INEC and the lack of accountability of INEC to we the citizens. Instead, INEC is like a body that who's the head of INEC? Is it not Mahmoud Yakubu? It is, isn't it? Where is it from? Is it not Fulani? These are things that we should be asking. INEC is not independent. In the 2019 elections, if you all recall, the INEC, the minute the police were chasing away a lot of people that wanted to vote for African Action Congress. They were chasing them away. They wouldn't let them settle. People ran. People were running for their lives. They wanted to, and that is why we say what we're saying. So 1 second. Okay, I've got the loads that we for the for the campaign of Yoruba Nation. Now, so when people talk about Peter Obi being that he will win, it is you need to understand, and I'm trying to explain this. Those of you who are supporting Peter Obi and saying he's going to be the next president, it is what you want to come to life, and I understand that. But that could only happen in a truly independent, democratic nation. Nigeria is not a democratic nation. It is not truly independent, nor is it democratic. All what we are seeing are illusions. They are illusions. Nigeria is a mirage. It is not a real nation. It is only a nation put together to extract the resources that belongs to the indigenous people that are being killed daily. And there are no support systems in place. There is no compensation package for farmers. So let me just touch on that, for example. Peter Obi said that we have 70 million hectares of agricultural land. Of that, the people that are farming, they are being targeted by terrorists. They are being killed, and their crops are being destroyed. There is no compensation structure in place by the current government. I noticed he did not mention that the compensation about that. He didn't talk about the compensation and what his government was going to do about that. So you're left asking questions, and it's leaving me asking more questions than answers. The more answers he provides, the more questions I have for him. I know there was some talk about not showing your hand and not doing whatever and all of that. I understand all of that. I get that. I get that to a certain extent. But at the end of the day, if you are going to talk about being Manu, good afternoon and welcome on board, those of you joining us on TikTok. If you are going to talk about being a president of Contraction Nigeria, then you need to recognize that there are clear obstacles that have been put in your way, mainly INEC. INEC is not independent, and we would have thought that you would have been trying to awaken the people to that fact. But no mention of that has been made. And what happens when the election is rigged and Atiku comes in? What happens then? What steps will they take? They've rigged elections many times, and our people are refusing to really address that issue. So please do share this broadcast as you're coming in. Thank you very much for joining. The broadcast is about Peter Obi. He was at the Chatham House talking about his plans for Europe, for his plans for contraction Nigeria, for Nigeria when he becomes the president. The point I'm making here is that he is not even going to be a president, because the very institution that's supposed to run the electoral process is not independent. INEC is not independent, and that lack of independence will translate into that election, the upcoming election that they're talking about, that they're forcing people to believe in, to be rigged. We know that in the north they are bringing in millions of people, 10 million terrorists who are then pardoned and put into the army. So when you're bringing in terrorists using guns, cleaners, and when you catch them, instead of jailing them and then send them back to where they come from at the end of their protest, at the end of their sentence, the Nigerian government is actually pardoning every single one of them. When they kill a Middle Belt, a Yoruba, Southerner, a Christian Hausa, when they kill them, the government, instead of jailing these people, the government pardoned all of them. They put them into the sensitive area of the armed forces. The armed forces of Nigeria is populated by foreigners that have been killing the indigenous people, and nothing is being said in the world. And that is why when we talk about this, I do not believe that Peter Obi can win this election on that basis. I do not believe that he will be able to win that election. And that is the reality that many who have a rose-tinted view that he will be okay, yes, he'll be fine, that he will win. It is not true. Please leave a comment if you're joining us on YouTube. Good morning and welcome to you all. If you're joining, please give us a thumbs up. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube and leave a comment, and let's hear your thoughts and views. We're going to talk a little bit more about a few more things, but before, I wanted to talk about this issue about Peter Obi, because I felt it was something that we needed to discuss and actually, really try to educate ourselves about the situation that we find ourselves, because many people have this misconception that Peter Obi is the solution, without realizing that Peter Obi, yes, might be the solution, but there are the main obstacle that will prevent true electoral free and fair elections is INEC itself. INEC is not independent. INEC was imposed upon us, just like the promulgation decree number 24 of 1999 that they call a constitution. It's an imposition. So these are things that I'm trying to really get us to think about. Obi will not win because of that central issue of the lack of independence of INEC. Even though it says Independent National Electoral Commission, it is the very opposite. And if you notice, the West, they say to us, yes, we're coming to support you, we will provide you food and everything else, we'll peacekeeping forces. The peacekeeping forces that they send into many places in Africa, they end up either looting or raping and killing people. So the same ploy is what you see with the system. If they say the INEC is going to be independent, and the steps, and we can see that INEC can never be independent under the current structure and system. We need a new constitution where the role of of INEC and everything else is going to be clearly defined. The independence and the need for it to be able to say, okay, right. We would, for us to now begin to trust the system and say that INEC will not rig that election. It's simply not there. So when we talk about these things, you can see that there's a number of issues before that is in front of Peter Obi that will not allow him to be the next president of Nigeria, because Nigeria is indeed a fraud. So, like I said, I hope that makes some sense. We've watched the comment, sorry, not here, on YouTube. We've watched the video. We saw the replay of Peter Obi holding a speech at the Chatham House, which you see in the picture. And what we're doing at this point is assessing and dissecting the questions he put forward. He talked about, let me see. He talked about increasing the electricity now from the less than 4,000 or less than 3,000 to 11,000 megawatts by 2024. He cannot activate any of those things whilst in government. He cannot activate it once he gets in, because he will suddenly find that his hands are tied by that fraudulent 1999 constitution, and those who put it on him will be doing everything to prevent him from actually bringing anything on. With millions and billions upon billions and trillions of naira has been wasted by this government and the one before among themselves, and refusing to build the infrastructure that we need. So we cannot trust just somebody's words and say they will do this right, they will do the right. No, we cannot trust that. So I wanted to bring that to you as a topic. What I'm probably going to do now is I need to go in and get a bit of a rest and come back again. I want to come back and talk about the issue about Bakassi and Bakassi, Cameroon, Nigeria, and I will break down one or two things with that later on. But for now, before we go, let us do something. I want you to just do something for us before you go. Listen to this track. Those of you on TikTok, you won't be able to listen, but those of you who are on YouTube, you'll be able to hear it. So let's play that track, and then we will come back again later on. And I might talk about other topics that is more of a wider interest to people who are on TikTok as well. But let us find this track and play it. 1 second, please. Here we go. Okay. So that as I'll stop and I'll come back, because I do need to have a bit of a break. I'm just going to check a few things. So let's do that now. So here we go. So this is to encourage. How long? By the way, that song How Long is available on iTunes and Spotify.
My people, I throw it salute. Hey, hey. Make it hear.
Yes. Okay. So whilst that is playing on there.
How long? How long? How long? How long? How long? How long? How long gonna go this suffer? How long? How long? How long? How long? How long? How long? self-determination. How long? How long? How long? How long? How long? How long? How long gonna go this suffer? How long? How long? How long? How long? How long? How long gonna go this suffer? How long? How long? How long? How long? How long? How long gonna go this suffer? How long? How long? How long? How long? How long gonna go this suffer? Abdul Salam na fake man. Now he put that yeah constitution for your head, yo. Abdul Salam na fake man. Na military man can't tell una say una get constitution. No be lie. Na lie, oh, na fake, na fraud, oh. That yeah constitution. Na him that they claim close to na high, oh. Make una wake up, make una wake up, oh. How long? How long? How long? How long gonna go this suffer? How long? How long? How long? How long gonna go this suffer? How long? How long? How long? How long gonna go this suffer? How long? How long? How long? How long gonna go this suffer? My people, I want make una know say oh, self-determination, oh, na your right, oh, confirm. My people, I want make una know say oh, self-determination, na your right, oh, confirm. You must fight for your right. You must stand for your right. You must get up, stand up. You must tell your people, for your village, for your town, for your city, any inside country where you dey, oh. Atiku, Emilokan, or Peter Obi no be the solution. Na the solution, na it be the solution. Make una wake up, make una wake up. Time down knock, bagang. You be Yoruba man, you be Biafran. I want make una know say self-determination, na your right, you. How long? How long? How long? How long gonna go this suffer? How long? How long? How long? How long gonna go this suffer? How long? How long? How long? How long gonna go this suffer? How long? How long? How long? How long gonna go this suffer? Yoruba land na your land, yo. Middle belt na your land, yo. Hausa land na your land, yo. Biafra land na your land, yo. No be Nigeria, no be Nigeria, no be Nigeria, no be Nigeria. La 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 la. Oh.
So thank you very much for those of you watching. I'm back later on. Let me end here. I'll come back again. I'm back later on. So, right. So what I'm basically trying to do now is to give us more updates. I'll be back later on. Please do leave comments, share this broadcast. I'll come back and we will do a live broadcast and we will talk about the Bakassi, how Bakassi ended up in the hands of Cameroon. And did you know, I'm going to tell you, there's a story about there's a connection between Cameroon and Nigeria. And many people are not aware. And that will begin to make you question why they are telling you to believe in one Nigeria. It's important we break that down. When you see what I'm about to show you, when I come back, and I'll talk about that at length. So please tell people about the fact, about this issue, that how Nigeria and Cameroon was created will make us understand that we should not be supporting something that our ancestors had no hand in. And we need to dismantle it because it is a colonial construct. But I will give you more context and an update on that later on. For now, what's left for me to say is I thank you so very much for joining us. Please do share this broadcast, Let it reach as many people as possible. Subscribe to the channel, Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. I'll be back in a little while and we can talk some more on about this and a range of other subjects. We continue to ask for Mazi Nnamdi Kanu to be freed, and I hope that Ikenga is okay, because I know they burnt his house down and it's one of his uncles, I think, was killed. Condolences to him. But this is all part of it's a clear sign of failure of governance, and we say again categorically, there is no way that Peter Obi can win this election because INEC is not independent. That's the reality, and that is how we see it. We'll come back and give you some more of this later on. But for now, I want to say thank you very much. Please share the broadcast as you get it. Share it. Let it reach more and more people. We need to continue to awaken our people. We have to go for self-determination. That is the only game in town. Yes, we know people are going to vote in the elections, and we've spoken about it. But after the elections, we who are in the Biafrans, the Yorubas, the Middle Belt, all of us, we will come together, and we are waiting for you to come and join us, because that's when it will dawn on many of you voting now that Nigeria is a fraud. Because you will understand that they're not going to change anything. Your lights is not going to improve. Your water will not improve. Your roads will not improve. Your schools will not improve. Your safety will not improve. As long as you're inside contract in Nigeria, the only option for us is to go for self-determination. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. I'll be back later on to give you further updates. Thank you and goodbye. Bye for now. Bye.